Brother Willie Muhammad. And once again, I want to thank you for tuning in to another broadcast of Classes in Session. We're here on WBOK, where it's Real Talk for Real Time, 12:30 a.m. And as always, family, I thank you all for tuning in every Monday at 3 p.m. to Classes in Session. And we hope that you are finding what you have heard in the previous shows to be interesting, to be enlightening, and we hope that it has inspired you to go do the research. And so today, family, we have a very special guest, and we're doing an interview. I know normally you all may be used to hearing me do the show and playing various clips from different people as it relates to whatever topic that we have. But today we have a guest with us, and it's our brother Jesse Muhammad. And he lives in Houston, but our brother travels all over the country doing things to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He has experience as a journalist, social media, consultant, or expert. You know, I heard somebody refer to you as a Twitter Army General, Brother Jesse. I saw a commercial on yesterday. So thank you for giving us an opportunity to interview you, my brother.
Thank you. First, assalamu alaikum to you, Brother Willie. And
walaikum salam.
Peace and blessings to all of the listeners. I'm always honored to be with you, my brother, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it, definitely, because we know you're very busy. But for the audience, those who don't know you, can you just give them a little background about your upbringing and even your testimony, because you have a very powerful testimony.
Yes, sir. Well, born and raised in Houston, Texas, particularly on the north side of Houston, raised by a single mother of 5, and, of course, raised also by my beloved grandmother. And we went through a difficult period of time where my mother experienced some addiction to drugs, and we experienced homelessness, lived in many shelters, and even lived in, for a particular time, man, when I was around the 4th grade, lived inside of a crack house in the area, as many people know as 5th Ward. They may know it from the group The Ghetto Boys. And, yes, we went through a very rough upbringing at time, particularly not having a male in our lives, but our mother, when she recovered, and our grandmother and aunts, were very strong women that helped to nurture us in a very special way. And so we were blessed to overcome these various trials that had a great effect on us coming up. And from that time, but I never stopped my stride in school, always remained a straight-A student. And even though my older brothers were involved in a lot of troublemaking, I was considered, the Dwayne Wayne of the neighborhood, where they wouldn't let me do anything like drink or smoke or hang out, really. So I was kind of shielded and protected, and was considered a little basketball star. Thought I was going to make it to the NBA. So after finishing at Forest Brook Senior High School, I went on to Prairie View A&M University to major in electrical engineering. And also during around about 93 or so, my beloved brother, Brother Derek Muhammad of Houston, he introduced me to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad via the book Message to the Black Man and an audio cassette tape. I don't know if this is Throwback Thursday just yet, but I heard the minister on the audio cassette tape and started listening to him before every basketball game. And I didn't really know who he was, but his voice, it just had a certain effect on me. And I started studying Message to the Black Man, and I was so excited about the teachers in high school, Brother Willie, that they called me the resident pastor of Forest Brook. So I was opening and closing every meeting in prayer, and I decided right when I got to Prairie View in 97 that I wanted to go ahead and become a registered member, not because I wanted to wait 4 years, but because my mother had told me I couldn't join until I graduated from high school. And I was blessed to start the Nation of Islam Student Association on campus for those 4.5 years that I was there. Was very, very active from the start inside the nation, and have been involved ever since. And then fast forwarding, around 2004, how I got to writing for the Final Call was really just about ego. I got tired of seeing only a couple cities, as you know, Brother Willie. If you're not in the central region or maybe the eastern region, it was hard to make the Final Call. So I wrote the then editor, Sister Dora, saying, hey, man, we're doing things in the southwest region. Can y'all report on us? and she told me to write it. And I didn't really ask for that, but I just started sending in articles and just highlighting the success and great things that the Nation of Islam members were doing, whether it was in business and community. And just so happened I was blessed to get a call from Sister Dora, and she said the minister read my articles, and he said he enjoyed the spirit of my writing. And I didn't go to school for journalism. I was just doing it out of excitement. And then I got a call and was offered to be a correspondent. And then that following year of 2005, my journalistic career would take a great turn because that's when Hurricane Katrina hit. And as you know, I was right here in Houston, as well as things were transitioning, and you all who were hit by that great calamity were coming here, and there was somebody that needed to report on it. And Minister Farrakhan chose me through Sister Dora to be the one to cover Hurricane Katrina, and told me he wanted me to write the cover story, brother. And I was very, very nervous about that. But real quickly, one thing that I did, they was not allowing the media to go inside of the Astrodome at all. So what I did was I took off my suit and tie and put on my jeans, my T-shirt, my Air Force Ones, and put my recorder and my camera in my back pocket. And I snuck into the Astrodome because I guess they figured I was probably from New Orleans. And I went inside the Astrodome and got the first exclusive interviews with those that were affected by what was going on. And after writing that cover, my journalistic career with the Final Call took a great, great turn that I had no idea it would.
Wow, that's interesting, man, to say that your degree was what you say, engineering, and you end up writing and being able to really cover some very, very significant stories. Right now, especially, in the eye of the news media, we have, especially now, unfortunately, where the news came out that they have not pressed charges against the officer that shot Alton Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
And many people look at, let's say, the Alton Sterling incident, the Trayvon Martin incident, also as kind of like the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement. But when we really look at the history, especially in the last years, 10 years or whatever, that the Gina 6 to me really was that incident that really began to awaken the young people. And if you could talk about that, because it was the Final Call newspaper that really, as you were saying, like really broke that story.
Yes, sir, that's correct. In 2006, I received a text message from a brother in the mosque here asking me had I heard about what was going on with 6 black males in Gina, Louisiana. And being very honest, I had never heard of the town at all. And I started making some calls, and when I searched for it, I saw that a writer who was still a good friend of mine, Jordan Flattery, had wrote a small piece for a local Louisiana paper in the Gina Times there, and he had posted something. I know people might not remember MySpace, but he posted something on there, and I read it, and they were trying to get traction for it. So he did a small mention, and so myself and some brothers, we gassed up our own vehicles, paid our own way, and went down and took our personal cars to Gina, Louisiana, and had no idea it was one of those small towns that as soon as you make a right at the Chevron, you're going to lose all cell phone signal. And we went down there ourselves to investigate, and we were openly threatened by white people there. There were pickup trucks with Confederate flags on it driving by, asking us why we here. We went straight to the high school where they said that the noose was hanging in the white tree in the black section. We went to the school on the property just unannounced because, we're taught to be strong and we fear nobody but God. So we went right on the grounds and got with the father immediately. And we were blessed when we put that on the cover, brother. That case went all around the world. And I had no idea that it would take off that fast. And, the one thing about journalism that really is the strength of writers is being consistent in follow-up. Sometimes the attention span in America, man, is so short that we go from one violent situation, one emergency, one crisis to the next, and then we abandon. But me, I didn't go to school for journalism, but we always taught to submit ourselves as a student. So those like Brother Askia, who had been writing since the days of the Muhammad Speaks when he was the editor, I would call him and ask him things. Those that had the background and the experience, I would always ask them. And so I learned about how to follow up, how to stay in communication. But also, Brother Willie, for me, it was beyond the byline. These people became family to me, the Gina 6 family. I called them, they would call me for personal advice, so outside of writing stories. So the times of stories that I wrote in the final call don't even equate to how much I actually talked to the family and how many times we went there. But once that case exploded in 2007, we had a small rally that summer of July. And then in September, 50,000 people converged on a city that had approximately 4,000 people.
Oh.
I mean, had never been done. And then, not only that, the majority in attendance were black college students.
Mm-hmm.
So the Gina 6 case actually was the movement that reignited activism on the black college campuses that had got dormant, that had been totally killed. And so, yes, sir, that Gina 6 case was a serious game changer, and I'm happy to know years later, I've been in communication with a few of them, and particularly Michael Bell, who recently graduated from college last year. And all of those boys are doing very well. And when I talked to Michael last year, one of the things he said, were it not for the Nation of Islam and that final call paper, he said he really wouldn't know where they would be at today, because we really took them in, showed care. And then Minister Farrakhan brought his parents up on stage at Mosque Mariam in Chicago and acknowledged them. And last I'll say this on leadership. It was during that Gina 6 movement, brother, that I really got a chance to see how ill-motivated leadership can affect the masses. Man, when we're attention hungry, and we want to just get credit and don't want to do the work, people were very upset by Reverend Jackson and Reverend Sharpton and others. You had, Michael Baisden. Everybody had filed for different marching permits, brother. They was having 4 different rallies at one time down there in September. And the people were divided, and they were confused. And it showed our weakness before the enemy, and that's why they ended up putting Michael Bell right back in jail that same day, because we didn't show no unity. And so in that, I got a chance to really see how, man, when you got ill motivation as a leader, you're really going to be sat down, and it's not going to just be the people that's going to sit you down. Your own ways will sit you down eventually, and down the time, you'll become irrelevant on your own.
Wow. And it'll be interesting, because just like you said, with the attention span of America, I think, it'll be good. I wonder if the final call will be interested in doing like a follow-up and, in a sense, like, where are they now to actually talk about how these brothers have went on to they went on to complete their academic pursuits, and they're doing what they began to do, because, like you said, if it wasn't for the final call and all of the others that played a part, they'll be sitting somewhere in some Louisiana correctional facility here down south, man. It'd be another example, man.
That's right, and I think that definitely would be a good idea, because when I posted Michael Bell's graduation photo on my Facebook page last year, and it got over 4,000 reshares on Facebook. I mean, and people were so excited, because you just really don't know how that case, some people don't know how that case has really affected people and how they remember it, because it's etched in history. And yes, it went around, and he was getting so much love. And so the people definitely would, just like with all cases, that's why dealing with Hurricane Katrina, in particular dealing with Mosque number 46, always following up with you all, from the tragedy to the triumph. And that did a lot for the readers. And then when I would always follow up with Katrina survivors, as I call them, even in Houston, in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, I stayed in communication with them. And whenever I would write follow-up stories, even before the commemoration, I've always would update people on them, what they're doing, how they built restaurants, started their own business, started a school, and those type of follow-up actions, it really does a lot, for our people. And it gives people that hope that even in the worst situations, man, you can overcome. So the final call has been definitely valuable in doing that.
And even the articles that you did, the coverage you provided about the Danziger Bridge incident with the police officer who shot their family and different things like that. All of that was significant, man. And that's one of the beautiful things about this radio station, WBOK, because after Hurricane Katrina, it's a black-owned radio station. And after Hurricane Katrina, it really gave a voice to the black community, and it still gives a voice to the black community. So your writing in the Final Call newspaper, which is an international newspaper, the media arm, one part of the media arm of the Nation of Islam. So it is definitely significant. So we're coming up on our first break, and dear brothers and sisters who are listening, we have with us our brother Jesse Muhammad. And we're going to come back on the other side, and we'll talk more about the value of social media. And when I say social media, we're talking about the things known as Twitter primarily, Facebook, Instagram. And, some people may be a little intimidated by the social media, but it is very powerful. And our brother on the other half of the show, he's going to talk about the power of it, how it can be used as a liberating tool for our people, and his work with helping the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is almost 85, and he has a Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram account. And the minister is, as Brother Jesse is going to talk about, is really showing us how to properly use social media. So this is your Brother Willie Muhammad. This is Classes in Session, WBOK, 12:30 a.m., where it is real talk for real time. We'll be right back. Back, family. This is your brother once again, Brother Willie Muhammad. Classes in Session, WBOK, 12:30 a.m., where it's real talk for real time. And if you weren't listening during the first half of the show, we have Brother Jesse, who's from Houston, former journalist, right? Brother Jesse of the Final Call newspaper. Now we got to come up with a title for you, man. Social media consultant, social media advocate or activist, one of them. So while we're talking about that, can you talk about, to the listeners, about the significance of social media, especially as it relates to how it can be used as a tool to raise the consciousness of our people?
Absolutely. The evolving factors of modern technology in America definitely have taken on new life, that we are now in the age where a sitting president is pretty much not running the country and the world from the Oval Office, but from a smartphone. And who would have thought that we would be in an era like this, that now he doesn't have to have a press conference and things like that. He could just post 140 characters or less and get a response from world leaders, allies, and enemies. And so that should give us all the clearest of thought that social media is a force to be dealt with. It will be here for a while. It's something that if we are intimidated by it, that we should do what Minister Farrakhan did, which is submit ourselves as a student to learn it. And I have found that even years before being blessed to work in this capacity for Minister Farrakhan in this social media arena in the Nation of Islam, that, man, once I got on MySpace, and we organized, Brother Willie, we organized the Gina 6 rally, that September 2007 rally we mentioned earlier. We organized that through MySpace. People were sending me their bus and transportation pickup spot information, and I was creating the fly But we used MySpace then to communicate. We used conference calls as well before freeconferencecall.com. I don't even know what conference call system was it back then. But all that to say is that even then I was already into social media. And it was because of the Gina 6 case. People wanted faster updates outside of the once a week that I was writing in the final call. So it was some brother asked me, did I know anything about blogging? And I had never heard of it. And I started searching it, and so I started spending many hours up at night learning how to blog and what does it mean, and learning online marketing. And then, my wife is a witness. She had many times had to tell me, man, go to sleep, because I started getting so attracted to this. And then early on, many didn't get it, and many laughed, but I said, man, these are going to be great tools for us to help with in the Nation of Islam. And I said, man, black organizations, man, they really can reach the young people. I've been excited about it for years, but many wasn't catching on at all, but it never deterred me. And so from that, I was blessed to win Black Blogger of the Year for the Black Web Blog Awards 2 years in a row, and all kinds of blog awards. And so now, looking at it, I've seen and watched how social media has grown to the point now Facebook says that out of every 5 minutes that we spend on our smartphone, we spend at least one of those minutes on Facebook. So that means that, brothers and sisters, every time you open up your phone, Facebook is on in 60 seconds out of your 5 minutes. That's how much we are now into social media, but the question is, how are we utilizing it? Well, when Minister Farrakhan got on Twitter in 2011, the first thing that he realized was that it was an avenue to help him further in his mission, which is the resurrection of the mentally and spiritually dead. See, we're taught that it was the House of Virginia delegate said that they had cut off every avenue by which light could enter into the mind of the slave. Then what Minister Farrakhan saw with social media was this is now unlimited avenues by which light can reach our people and eliminate their excuses for not knowing. So when he found out, Brother Willie, that a person from Africa could ask him a question on Twitter and he can respond back to it and that they can get it, it was over with then. Because he's always want to engage. Now, in the midst of everybody promoting self, being Minister Farrakhan wanted to use social media as an extension of his work, which is to engage the people where they are. So he started the trend of responding to questions to people. That's where the hashtag Ask Farrakhan came. Then he gave us an instruction. He said we should use social media for the passing of knowledge, creating brotherhood, and we should use it to change the consciousness and the conversation that's going on there. So now we have witnessed, those that's been paying attention, since the minister has been on social media these last several years, we've seen a major shift now in the consciousness. I've had people where they've sent me personal letters and wrote the minister letters that they're starting to see more of their friends reshare less and less trash and more consciousness things. And they said that they felt it was directly related to the minister's presence. Also, there's been so many people for years have hungered to ask the minister one question that's been on their heart. And they have taken advantage of that opportunity. And now you've seen people who wanted to commit suicide, people whose marriages were failing, young people who needed guidance in college, young brothers who didn't have any fathers and was reaching out to the minister for a good word, a mother who wanted to give up. Some people who've had access to social media via prison sent questions via other people to ask the minister on Twitter so they can get a good word in jail. That's because they know that just even though it's 140 characters, a word from the minister is life-saving. So I have witnessed, and others have witnessed, that the minister's presence on social media has not been a game and has not been lightweight. It has been a serious shift in the way people have utilized social media, and the minister has definitely been a trendsetter. And last point to it, anybody that's listening to us on this show, if you have not seen the Time and What Must Be Done series on YouTube, you should go and watch it immediately. And what you will see is that was the greatest and most historic utilization of YouTube that has ever been done. You will never see a series where a man gives you the headlines before the headlines. And then had the audacity where we were live tweeting and out-trending the World Series, out-trending the NBA Finals, out-trending movies that were spending $250,000 to trend on Twitter. We were out-trending them organically for 58 straight weeks. And the Farrakhan Twitter Army proved that we can make trend whatever we want to trend. It don't have to be the trash. It could be the truth. So this social media has been very serious, so I encourage everybody, follow Farrakhan on social media. It would be a great decision you have made.
Wow. So what advice would you give to some of our elders in the community who are listening to the show, and, some of them may be just intimidated just towards technology as a overall, but like, what advice would you give them as it relates to to begin to test the waters of social media? What would you recommend for them to, which outlet to start on first and things like that?
Absolutely. Well, I call it the first P's of senioritis. First thing is you got to have a purpose for it. Most elders, which are the elders right now, are the ones that are dominating Facebook. And most of the time they're connected on there. Like my grandmother had a purpose. She said, well, since y'all don't hardly come see me, I'm gonna find y'all where I can on Facebook. So my beloved grandmother, Myrtle Ross, whose birth anniversary is actually on the same day as the minister, in her late 80s, she is now an avid Facebook user so she can keep up with what her grandchildren are doing. She has a purpose. So the first thing is, why do you want to be on? Is it just to reconnect with people? Or do you have a business that you want to do? When your purpose is clear, that's the first step. The next P is get the right people. Grandparents and older ones, you complain about these young people having their necks at a 45-degree angle all the time, but those are your best teachers. They know how to use the tools. So ask your grandchildren. Minister Farrakhan said that along with myself and his grandchildren, he said we dragged him kicking and screaming to social media. The minister told me outright, Brother Willie, that he did not like the internet. He didn't know what an iPad was. Now the minister got the iPhone 7, got the latest iPad, and got himself on Google Alert. He watches YouTube videos. He got it all, but he submitted himself to people that knew how to do it. So he stayed up late at night on the phone with me to ask questions just to learn the jargon. He didn't know what tweet meant. He didn't know what retweet meant. He didn't know what trending was. What is a Facebook share? Now the minister understands how to read Facebook analytics. He knows what Facebook reach means, those type of things. And so you get the right people with you, then it makes it a whole lot easier to break that intimidation factor. And the last P is go ahead and just practice. Go ahead and start doing it. So I encourage you to start with Facebook. Facebook is a more slow pace. It allows a lot more characters. It's a little bit slower for people that like to find folks and everything like that, And I have found that those who are older, when they start with Facebook, it gives them a little bit more confidence to do the other things. So those are 3 P's. Have a purpose, connect with the right people that help you lower your intimidation, and then just start practicing. You'll be all right.
Wow. Now, you talked about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's use of Facebook, and one of the things that I've noticed as well is that Facebook has also given more celebrities the opportunity to hear and read the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's words directly, and there's no twist from the media. Who are some of the celebrities that you can remember that actually follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and even engage him on Twitter and social media?
Man, one person that has been, really off the charts and resharing Minister Farrakhan's videos is the actor and singer Tyrese. He really takes a lot of the minister's clips, and, he has millions of followers on Facebook alone, and he reshares a lot. Of course, he's met with the minister before on a few occasions. For himself, I've seen, of course, Puff Daddy, Russell Simmons has done it, Rick Ross, Birdman, Big Boy from Outkast has done it a lot, Common. So it's almost getting to the point, Brother Willie, the real question is, who hasn't? Because with social media, it has done something to the confidence of people who normally wouldn't want the public to know that they're associated with the minister. It's something about that with social media now, the artists are eager to post a picture with the minister, regardless of what label they on. Like right now, the NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, he is not shy about resharing the minister's tweets. On his Twitter account, he has 1 million followers, and just the other day, somebody said, "What, you gonna have a bow tie on soon or something?" And Deion Sanders responded back. He said, "What's wrong with resharing words with one of the greatest orators that has ever lived?" So he's showing strength, and he works for the NFL Network, where he seems to not care what anybody thinks, and he has a boss that he reports to. So with the minister's presence on social media, it's opened up a whole arena where it's so much sharing and so much that's known now that in the past, as you know, Brother Willie, in your years being in the nation, the minister would meet with many people, and we wouldn't know it at all. But now we get a chance to see it. But the greatest effect, and I know for those that don't like it, consider it the most dangerous, that if all these stars and celebrities are being followed by all these young people around the world, if they're talking about Minister Farrakhan, then it makes these young people interested in him, a generation that may not know him. So now that has caused them to flock with him. So when we look at the analytics of it, we're seeing that the ministers reach 30 and under seems to be that dominant age that are flocking to his pages continuously all around the world. So the young people are definitely being reached even more by his social media.
And when we're talking about young people, one segment of the youth population that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan appears to, generation after generation, whoever are the stars of that generation, they all seem to appear to have a desire to want to meet the minister or even get guidance from him. And oftentimes that they are members of the generation where some people, because they don't understand the language, they don't understand the dress, they don't understand the music, that some people write them off, like the Young Thugs, the Birdmans. But you have been blessed to have the opportunity to be in private settings with some of these artists and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in these settings, these young brothers and sisters show a side that oftentimes the media doesn't catch, the music label doesn't want to be shown, and an intelligence. Could you share some of those experiences?
Absolutely. It reminds me, in the small book, The Flag of Islam by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, one of the attributes that he gives of the sun is that it grows the vegetation regardless of what type of vegetation that it is. It doesn't matter if you're Eminem, Young Thug, 2 Chainz, Rick Ross, or the Migos. The minister grows the vegetation. It's something about him, brother, that regardless of, even when somebody said something somewhat foolish in front of him, he's always pulling on the higher nature of the individual, Brother Willie. It never fails. So what happens, they're seeking something from him, but many I've seen sit down, really don't know what they're coming to him for, and then when they say something, God always blesses him to say the thing that penetrates them personally in a very special way. I watched how the young brothers, the Migos, the minister honestly didn't know them. The minister doesn't keep up with all of them, but that's our job to help him. But when he grabbed their hand, he talked to them young brothers about being the greatest generation and how we're depending on them and how they need to properly utilize their influence to raise the consciousness of the people. Now, the minister has no idea what music they put out. He's just speaking directly to who he knows they are. And they were scheduled to release their album that next week. This was in 2015, and it was called Rich N-Word Gang. Well, they put up on Instagram after meeting the minister that they delayed the release of the album, and they changed the name to Rich Gang Nation. And everybody was trying to wonder, why did they change, that? And when we posted the pictures of the minister with them, they said, oh, so recently I saw somebody post on Instagram to one of the members of the Migos. They posted just the other day. They said, since sitting down with Farrakhan, these cats been dropping knowledge everywhere they go. Wow. So the minister plants seeds, man, that sooner or later they begin to germinate, and we begin to see the change, in them. It happened to Eminem. It happened with Rick Ross and all of these others. So with the minister, it doesn't matter what vegetation it is. Once he shines his light and he speaks into the nature of who they are, and he even always sees greatness in us and greatness in them that we may not even see in ourselves. And when he pulls on that, it puts a responsibility on them. See, it's no accident that Rick Ross and others put out a song, Buy Back the Block.
Right.
Investing in real estate, building up our own communities. Then you got T.I., Us or Else. I mean, he's going hard. He's been counseling with the minister and talking with him, and it's having that effect, on them. So that's why it's our job to bear witness and to testify when we have seen these. And I appreciate you always asking, because it's not for the minister to go out and say these things. It's for those of us as witness bearers that witness it to let them know that these certain things are not happening in osmosis. They've been affected by a man who is divinely guided by God, and he's pulling on the God within them, and they're acting accordingly. So it's been a blessed sight, brother, to see. So I'm always following their accounts, brother, and seeing the change. Even Young Thug, he started wearing a chain with Allah in Arabic on. He started posting saying Assalamu alaikum on his Instagram page, brother. It's causing a little shift there. So people should be patient with our artists. Stop condemning them and stop being afraid of them. See, some people don't want to sit down with the artists because you're scared of them. The minister is not afraid because they got some teardrops under their eyes and they bodied a couple people. So some of us are too afraid to deal with them, and that's why they don't flock to you. So we can't be scared, and so the reason you condemning them is why? Because you don't want to deal with them. But we're taught in the Nation of Islam, we don't condemn our young people. We don't condemn the artists. We just know how to strategically reroute their energy to do something positive. And if you can't do that, then leave them alone. You're not the one to deal with this generation. So just sit down, sit on the sideline, and let the man deal with them as he has.
And man, some people don't know some people don't know the length that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan goes to teach our people, and especially the young. In a day and age where we have some pastors spending millions of dollars on private jets, and and sometimes you even have good men and women of the cloth who get caught up in this image of the pastor who's just money hungry. But very few people know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan just last year alone spent a total of $300,000 out of his own money to travel to universities where he did not accept honorarium. He did not accept. He paid his own way. And can you talk about that? Because I know on many of those college tours you were actually present.
Yes, sir. Man, you're talking about a whole entourage that is coming. That imagine, for those that's listening, just like if the president moves, then you got to bring this whole entourage with you. That's how it is bringing the minister in. It's not just him. It's a staff on the plane. Sometimes first-class ticket for certain ones, coach for others. Everybody has hotel rooms, brings his cook with us, got to rent vehicles. Sometimes, depending on the area, if it's in the Midwest, they'll drive his tour bus down to meet him in the city so that he can ride the tour bus to certain cities in the area, then drive that back to Chicago, and he gets on the flight. So you're talking about paying for hotel, rentals, gas, brother, the food, take care of the per diem, for his staff, then come in and offer and feed the people. He hosts people in his suite. He expands, and sometimes the room can't even fit everybody for dinner, Brother Willie. He'll get them to bring extra tables in, which means extra food got to be bought, which means extra cooks got to come in, so he accommodates people. He gives up his time, all the time, to people. He goes into cities where young people want to meet with him. He'll bring them up, meet with them Thursday, meet with them Friday. So before the minister even does the main event, he might have had about 10 or 12 meetings, man, with people already and paid his way. And then colleges have the nerve to want to fight him, want to ban him, but then give $50,000 to an artist to disrespect our women on stage and perform 2 shows, curse people out and leave, But the minister is not money hungry. We brought him to Prairie View in 2011. The minister had them, they wanted to give him a $5,000 honorarium. He said, I don't want that money. He said, give it away as a scholarship. And we gave it away to students who were going to an undergrad or in graduate school, and they gave out a Farrakhan scholarship at Prairie View. And the president's office said that was the first major speaker of consequence that has ever turned down an honorarium in all of the years. And they had just hosted Michelle Obama a few weeks before that. So it surprises people. And then, on top of that, he gives away Final Call products, books, tapes to the students, DVDs to the students, has private meetings with the leadership, give them stuff away. Many don't know, when we had Day of Atonement in Jamaica, he paid for the venue, gave books away, let the people come in free. I mean, he just constantly gives because the minister is a believer that he's about serving the people. So he said the honorarium is just your ear, and that's a blessing, man. So anybody that says on social media the minister is money hungry, man, you're really tripping. And $300,000 last year, let's not even talk about how much he paid leading up to 10-10-15 on that tour. Brother, please.
and he was... And I think about what the pastor, our brother Reverend Jamal Bryant, said, because he was blessed to be at one of the gatherings of 10-10-15, and it bugged him out that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan didn't have a collection plate passed around.
Right. Yes, he was in a meeting with us, and he said, y'all ain't going to collect no money like that. And the minister's like, that's not my job. But we did need to continue to raise money leading up to 10-10 because the minister and the nation at that point was pretty much still paying for everything dealing with the march, just like all of the last ones we've done. And so that's when it started being said, pull out your smartphone and donate. But Pastor Jamal Bryant kept telling people the minister is not asking for money. He just want to feed the people. And that's how it was on the tour. He asked nobody to pay for nothing. Those cities that hosted, he didn't want them to offer anything. And to be honest with you, brother, to try to pay for something for the minister is almost like putting up a fight now. Because he just said, you not go outgive me. No, I take care of it. Don't let him take you to dinner out to a restaurant and you think you fit to pay the bill. You go get your hand chopped off. I'm just joking. But he'll say, He is just such a giving man, all the time. I watch people come to his table at nighttime at dinner, and at the end when we're standing around, they express they need some help. The minister will say, you'll get a check before we leave. And, and then he don't ask them, what did you do with this? You could have did this. He don't condemn. He just gives so freely, brother, so freely. And that's why we don't mind raising Savior's Day gift. We don't mind doing what we do because that man has outgiven us all, has continued to work all, and he is the demonstration of true leadership. And I tell people, man, you can go to the halls of Harvard and Yale all you want to, but if you really want to be a serious leader of character in this time period, Minister Farrakhan is the case study that you need to put your mind on. And if you study his model of leadership, man, it will save you not only from yourself, but from the corruption of this world that sometimes really is attached to that money and how they get us. And that man can't be bought off at all. And so he is definitely an example for us.
Yeah, some people don't know that it was Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan who gave the current national head of the SCLC money when it was SCLC, which is the National Civil Rights Organization, was on its way to being bankrupt, and the guy, Richard Steele, right?
Charles Steele.
Charles Steele, yeah, he came and he met with the minister, and the minister gave him not a loan, but just gave him the money, and that's the reason, part of the reason why the SCLC is still in existence. And what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did was, which he didn't get in front of a camera, for the money that he gave to families here who were affected by Hurricane Katrina, you know.
That's right.
So we're coming up. We have about 7 minutes left. I know you, like, people sometimes don't realize. For example, we were in a correctional facility with some young brothers on Saturday, and to get their attention, I was just showing them the picture of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with the Migos, with King Louis, which is some rappers. When I asked them, how old does he look? They was like, they were like 50. And some people don't realize that the minister is on his way to be, 83, right?
Yes, he's about to be 84. Yes, sir.
84 years of age. And he has a grueling schedule when he goes to work. And he has health challenges and all that. Can you talk about briefly in this last 3 minutes, about what you have seen?
Right. The minister's work ethic is, I call it astronomical. And after being on the Justice of L's tour for those several months leading up to the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, I watched him work the way he does in spite of all that he's dealing with and going through. And I said, man, we think we're grinding, but this is the divine grind. That the man really shows us that there's really no excuse we should put up for not getting done what we know we should be doing. And the minister is so driven by love, brother. It's not a job to him. It's a labor of love. So the more he gives life to the people, the more he works, the more it feeds him and keeps him going. But also, too, the minister is not working like this and going through a drive-through window, brothers and sisters. This man is eating at a prepared table with a prepared meal with a beautiful ambiance of physical food that's married with spiritual food of conversation. So when we marvel at how he looks, just remember, man, he's eating well. And more importantly, too, he's thinking well, and he is living well. So if we want to be a reflection of such light as he, and we both, too, want to look like that, too, and still going, we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and make God first and foremost in everything that we're doing, and it'll be reflected in our countenance. But the minister, man, you be up close and watch him work. It's awe-inspiring to see the way he goes. And that's why after you witness something like that, there's no way you can be the same person. And that's why I move and strive to move, and Brother Willie and others help us move the way we move, because we have watched this man sacrifice the way he does. So we have to continue to pick up our pace. So when you really think you're grinding, just go check out Minister Farrakhan sometime on social media. Just Google him on YouTube. You ain't going to live enough lifetimes to watch all the lectures that he done done. This man been working for a long time, and that's why we thank Allah for him. And I pray to Allah that we all that are able will continue to help him the way he should be helped and deserves to be helped.
And that's it's so important, man. And I thank you for giving us the opportunity to interview you. And we did it before, but it was the recording was misplaced. But we thank you for giving us the second opportunity, and I hope that the listeners really got something on it. So for those listeners who may decide, they may have been inspired by you to get on Twitter or on Instagram or on Facebook, how can they follow you on those social media handles?
Yes, sir. Well, they can always, of course, follow the minister at Louis Farrakhan on Twitter and at Louis Farrakhan on Instagram. And on Facebook, it's official Minister Farrakhan. And you can find me at brotherjesseblog.com and Brother Jesse, brother spelled out, on all of the social media pages. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing something real good, if you follow me, I definitely follow you back.
We thank you, Brother Jesse, for giving us this opportunity, man, to be on the show and let our listeners to hear from you. We're definitely plan on having you back in the, sometime in the near future. So we thank you, and for those listeners, we thank you all for tuning in again to another broadcast of Classes in Session. This has been your brother Willie Muhammad with Brother Jesse Muhammad, and thank you for tuning in to WBOK 1230 AM. And we look forward to hearing from you all and you all tuning in on next Monday at 3 p.m. So thank you. Peace.